Good evening and welcome to the October 14th, 2020 North Andover Conservation Commission meeting. Just a brief introduction to tonight's meeting format. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by the members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 26 or online at www.northandovercam.org. One second. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time through technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in public hearings, please email your question or comment prior to or during the meeting to Amy Maxner at amaxner@northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. Just one more thing. If you are not a commission member and your item is not being discussed, we ask that you please mute yourself so we can cut down on background noise. I hear a bunch right now, so if everyone would just mute, that would be great.
Quiet. All right, we'll call the meeting to order, and I'll introduce the commissioners. We'll start off with Joe Lynch.
Hello, present.
Okay, Al Manzi.
Present.
Lou Napoli, chair. Myself, I'm here. Jack Maven.
Present.
And Sean McDonough.
Present.
Awesome. Okay, we'll start the meeting off with the approval of minutes for September 9th and September 23rd. They've been, we're looking for a motion.
Lou, I reviewed the September 23rd, 2020 minutes, and I would recommend that they be approved. I can't say the same for September 9th. It's only because I had to leave that meeting early. So I would move the meeting minutes for the 23rd.
Okay, and I did see the 9th, so we're looking for, we got a motion and a
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. The minutes are accepted. First order of business, small project, NICC number 263-155 Boston Street.
Okay.
Amy Martin Allen, I'm here.
Oh, great. Thank you, Martin. So I'll give an introduction to the project.
Thank you.
Okay. The project involves a replacement of an existing deck within the same footprint. The deck is 76 feet from the edge of the bordering vegetated wetland at its closest point. The deck is on the right side of the house. The narrative notes that the condition of the existing footings is currently unknown, and their replacement will be determined once demolition of the existing deck is undertaken. You have a plan, survey plan there that shows where that deck is, and they are looking for approval under Category B, replacement of existing lawfully located decks regardless of size.
Okay. Would you give your recommendations, Amy?
Yeah, okay. So, sorry, approve at Category B, with the following conditions. The Conservation Department shall be contacted once deck demo is completed and footings are under evaluation to verify whether they will be replaced. If replacement is required, means and methods of footing installation shall be reviewed, and erosion controls may be required by the Conservation Department staff if deemed necessary. And then a post-construction site inspection to verify compliance with as-built conditions.
All right. Any questions, Joe?
Just with regards to the uncertainty of the footing, Amy, it's a relatively flat site to begin with, isn't it? At least in the vicinity of the porch.
Yes.
So is it best? How are you leaving erosion controls? The required regardless of the footing condition, or are you going to evaluate it once the footing condition is known?
Evaluate once footing conditions are known. But
Okay, I'm all set. And no questions.
okay.
Thanks, Joe. Al?
No questions.
Jack?
No questions here. Hello.
Sean?
No questions.
Motion? Seeing you there, Sean, you might as well go for it.
Sure, I move that we accepted a small project, category B, and I'll bring a second motion to have it approved with the items and conditions that were previously mentioned by the administrator.
I second both.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it, and I'll wait to get the written confirmation.
Okay, you should be getting that in the next couple of days.
Understood. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next one is NACC 264, 684 Salem Street.
Okay, this is a small project permit for replacement of an existing deck that is 83 feet from the edge of bordering vegetated wetlands based on my conservative on-site observations and measurements. Footings are discussed in the contractor's proposal, and replacements, if needed, will be either helical piles or 12-inch diameter concrete footings. Footings are a total of 21 square feet, so under the threshold of 50 square feet for soil disturbance. And let's see, so they are seeking an approval under category B, and I suggest the following conditions. Should concrete footings be utilized, the Conservation Department staff shall be notified to specify erosion controls to the contractor, and a post-construction site inspection shall be scheduled with the Conservation Department to verify compliance with as-built.
Thank you.
Yep.
Joe?
Similar question as the last filing. Except the last filing had a topographic plan. This one does not. What's the condition of the site? Relatively flat, sloping away?
Flat.
No questions. Thank you.
Yep.
Al? Thank you,
I'm
Joe.
all set. I'm all set. Thank you.
Yep. Joe? Jack?
No questions here.
Sean?
No questions?
Very good. You could be the motion guy.
I'll bring the same motion I brought before, that we approve it as a B with the recommendations of Amy.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you. Next one is NACC number 265, 236 Abbott Street.
226.
226, I'm sorry.
No worries. Alrighty, so this is a small project permit under category L, which is other. The project involves demolition of an existing front steps and landing and construction of a new landing and steps with a portico roof. Measurements of the landing and steps are 8 by 6.4. A small piece of equipment will operate to demolish the existing concrete landing and stairs, and the portico and new landing and stairs will be approximately 91 feet from the edge of BBW based on my conservative observations and measurements in the field. This work is separated from the wetland by an area of lawn, landscaping, and the driveway. So they're seeking approval under category L, and I recommend conditions prior to work. A staked straw wattle be installed at the upgrading side of the driveway to contain work area, and that conservation staff inspect same once installed, and then a post-construction site inspection to be conducted with conservation staff to verify compliance.
Thank you, Amy. Joe, any questions?
No questions.
Al?
No question, sir.
Jack?
Not a one.
Sean?
Are we with us, Sean?
Are you still there, Sean?
We lose him?
Sorry, I was muted. I have no questions.
Okay.
Okay. Motion?
I move this as an L and recommend the conditions that Amy had referenced.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
It's nice.
And,
It's nice
Amy,
to have.
and Amy, if I can just say, Amy, this is a great example of a good L.
Oh, good. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's on the other side of the driveway. It's 91 feet away. It doesn't fit under everything else, and it's really not going to hinder or affect the wetlands. So this was perfect. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the next one is an RDA, 190 Mill Road.
Okay. So this is a continued public hearing. The commission will recall it's an RDA for after the fact application for work observed involving expansion of existing driveway with a crushed gravel. Let's see. At the last meeting, the commission requested that the applicant consider alternatives that shrink or relocate the proposed gravel driveway extension further away from the wetland. Let's see. So the commission received a revised plan and follow-up correspondence. Revisions include eliminating 320 square feet of the proposed footprint of the gravel extension immediately next to the dwelling and restore this area as lawn. This moves the edge of the gravel driveway 32 feet from the rear yard catch basin. Norse's environmental's attached letter discusses site constraints and rationale for keeping the rest of the gravel driveway extension as proposed. And it did review the 8 interests protected by the bylaw, and that the proposal, it has negligible impact on those interests. The commission had some concerns over a second catch basin in the street, in the right of way, at the end of the driveway. I spoke to the town engineer, John Borghese, and he is fairly sure that it is a town structure, although it's not shown on the inventory of our stormwater GIS calculator. And it does become covered up with leaves and sediment, so it's sometimes hard to find, and that's probably why it's not cataloged. The consultant followed up today with an email verifying the distance of the catch basin in the roadway to the new gravel drive, and that's approximately 12 feet with a 11 feet with a grass strip. And let's see. She opines that the gravel drive is flat and stabilized by lawn, and believing that it will not negatively impact the catch basin, and it's more to do, the sedimentation and buildup of the catch basin is more to do with the dynamics within the street and the right of way. than what was happening or what would happen in the driveway. She does note that the homeowner does maintain this catch basin and removes the sediment and leaf litter on a regular basis, and they will continue to do so.
Okay. Thank you, Amy. Joe?
My name is Patrick McLean. I live at 190 Mill Road, and if I could just speak for a minute, I would like to.
I'd like the commissioners that if they have any questions, then it might incorporate what you want to present to us. So I'd like the commissioners to speak first.
Thank you, sir.
If that's okay. Thank you. Joe?
Okay, so we're making headway from the last meeting. We asked an alternative because it looks like they have considered an alternative, and part of that is minimizing that impact up next to the house, which takes away the concern for the rear catch basin, which was part of the problem. Second part is still the catch basin up in the street, right of way, and that's not, I don't think, as aggressive of a problem, particularly if it's a town responsibility to clean it and the homeowner assists town in cleaning it. I heard Amy say the word waiver. There isn't a waiver required or is there?
Well, yes, I'm sorry. So not from the 25, but from the 50-foot no build for the gravel extension.
And I don't want to get caught up on semantic technicalities. If it's a waiver, how do we waive something under an RDA? Isn't that illogical?
I guess so.
Again, I say that because driveways are permitted in the 50 if an alternatives analysis has been completed.
Right.
So if an alternatives analysis is completed and there are no other alternatives other than no build, does that still constitute a waiver? And I guess I'll defer to Sean on that one. And that's the only thing I have. I think he asked them to consider alternatives and they've done that. So I'm satisfied with that part of it.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. Al?
I guess I have the same question. I understand it's an IDA. I understand we try to do these things as IDAs, and this is when they kind of drag to a halt administratively. Is the same question. Can this be completed under an IDA if we are actually granting a waiver request pursuant to an alternatives analysis? I don't know the answer. I'm kicking it down the table.
Okay. The alternatives analysis to me is unacceptable. Only in one spot. Amy, it flagged 3A.
Mm-hmm.
How far is it away from the driveway, the gravel section? Because I know they show up above the 25-foot no disturb,
Yeah,
but that's the cement. You just put that there to make us feel good. Down here, 3A, it looks like it gets really close.
yeah, it's like 26 feet.
26 feet.
Yep.
Okay, so and based on an engineering plan, which we don't have. It's stamped, but it should show that. So that could require a waiver right there. The alternatives analysis that I suggested the last meeting was, come in as a regular driveway and then just fan out and leave the where they were parking, and it would eliminate it would eliminate a waiver request. But the homeowner does not want to do it. So that's why I have an issue, but I'll defer to the rest of the commission. Jack?
Yeah, aside from the procedural question of granting a waiver under an RDA, it looks like the applicant is looking to minimize or do some minimization of the impact in the 50-foot. I recall from last meeting there was some suggestions by the commission that the disturbed area be tapered narrower, and that be tapered narrower in the area of that flag 3A where the 25-foot no disturb sort of impacts out toward the driveway, and yet they've minimized it, probably for a good reason of their own, back toward the house, and part of it being outside the 50-foot. So I'm not sure why that path was chosen. But overall, it looks like it's almost. I mean, it would be very undesirable to relocate the gravel area outside the 50-foot. It would put it in the middle of their front lawn, and I do agree with some of their alternatives that they discussed. So that's all I have, Lou.
Thanks, Jack. Sean?
Hi, Amy. If you have it somewhat at your ready, can you tell me what our regulations say concerning the reference to a driveway? Is it a gravel driveway? Is it a paved surface?
Yeah, hold on.
Thanks.
Hold on, I know it's here. I have it, it's in my hand. Let me just go to find the page.
Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No, it's all right.
Amy, you can hit the curveball, right?
Yep, I'm taking, I got my catcher's mitt on.
That's
Just ad-lib it.
Sean, that's why she
Somewhere
makes
between
big
22 and 27 feet.
No, Sean. It's in this case here. It wouldn't be an ad lib. It would be a swag.
It would be.
It would be a swag for sure.
Okay, so no build zones. The commission may grant a waiver from these regs for alteration of a buffer zone in situations where there are no feasible alternatives that provide for less impacts to the resource areas or
Yep.
values.
The different provision covers what is, we have a laundry list of items
Oh,
such as,
gotcha. I meant,
I believe.
no build zone. Construction of any kind is prohibited within the 50-foot no build from the edge of a wetland resource identified in section 1.3. Structures include but are not limited to foundations and footings, associated single-family dwellings, multifamily dwellings, commercial and or industrial buildings, porches, patios, decks, house additions, building additions, pools, septic systems, and shed. It says driveways, roadways, retaining walls, and landscape boulder walls may be allowed in the 50-foot no build zone when no other feasible location or alternative means of access exists.
So the closest thing to this gravel path is driveway, correct? It's on that list?
Driveways, roadways,
Mm.
retaining walls.
Yep.
Yeah, boulder walls.
Okay.
So, Sean, my hearing of that, not my read on that, but my hearing on that, driveways don't require a waiver so long as an alternatives analysis proves there is no other viable alternative. So that, I think the technicality, from my perspective, the technicality may go away. Is my interpretation incorrect?
I don't interpret it that way. I do think I interpret it that if something falls in that driveway, roadway category, that it's still something that requires an alternative analysis, and if they satisfy the requirement, then we would waive it. I think that's how we've done it for the last few years consistently. So I do think it probably does require a waiver, but, this is a situation where, if it could be done in the parameters of what Lou's looking for, with a tapering effect, then I'd be prepared to waive it. But then comes the issue that both Joe and Al and I think everybody else has brought up, is whether or not you can do that under an RDA. And that's something I kind of look at you guys on. That's, I don't recall seeing that someplace written in a regulation. I just always knew that as a rule of thumb from you guys over the years.
Sean, the MACC handbook is the closest thing to guidance that we have, and the handbook addresses RDAs by saying, "Thou shalt not exceed 3 conditions."
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say what the conditions have to be. It just says you ought not to exceed 3 conditions. So my feeling is that if we don't exceed 3 conditions, it could fall under an IDA if my interpretation of the handbook is correct, and I guess I'll see if anybody out there agrees or disagrees with my interpretation.
Well, my part is the alternatives analysis. There's clearly an alternatives analysis for this without asking for a waiver. That's why I have an issue with this. And me being in the pavement business, I used to be, you could very easily, bellow the driveway out to the, and that restoration plan that he has there serves no purpose because it's out of the 50. So like I said, I have a real issue with it. There's clearly an alternatives analysis, and it's being ignored. So I will defer to my fellow commissioners if they feel it's okay. Then I'm okay with it.
Can I share quickly or what was the motion?
I'd like to address the commission. Maureen Harold, North Environmental.
Yep. Hey, Maureen, if I could ask you to hold on 1 second, just so I can get a better understanding of what Lou's talking about. So,
sure.
Lou, as I'm looking at it, the 50 foot is 2/3 through the current paved driveway, and then curves around towards the corner of the house.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, I see a 25 no build zone right up against it. Must be erosion control. So if you go another 25, it's right at the edge of the gravel. I would say, I don't have a measuring stick, but I would say it's pretty close. A lot better than being 26 feet from the wetlands. It's flagged 3A.
I agree 100% with what you just said. Yep. I just wanted to make sure I understood where you were coming from.
Okay.
Sorry, Maureen, I didn't mean to jump in.
It's okay. So just to address the procedure, the enforcement order had suggested filing an RDA. The town suggested filing an RDA. This is why the RDA was filed with the commission. This is why the paperwork was put in front of you. I disagree that the alternative analysis is not appropriate. I clearly state out in the letter that I sent to the commission that we have a large ash tree that's in front of the home. Obviously, these roots are beneath the lawn area. If we propose the driveway outside of the 50 foot, we're going to have to excavate some of that lawn area out. The roots will be affected and the tree will eventually die. It's a nice, mature, large ash tree. In addition, there's an existing light pole that services the single family dwelling that will either need to be relocated, but certainly the wires underneath the lawn will have to be removed and the light pole relocated.
Maureen, we must be looking at the wrong thing. We're not asking the applicant to put the extension on the right of the house, of the driveway that's existing. What we're saying is about mid-driveway, you start to taper it out and incorporate the area that was there, that they were using before, and do it that way. And that eliminates the catch basin at the street. It eliminates being next to the 25. and we allow driveways in the 50. So it wouldn't even require a waiver. I mean, it's clearly a legitimate alternatives analysis, and it seems reluctant that the applicant wants to go that way, but that's our bylaw. We don't really have much choice.
Lou, just to make it more definitive, so Maureen maybe better understands what it is you just said, because I think I do. If I'm looking at the site plan, the proposed, the one that was just submitted to us electronically. If you would take that plan and look at flag 4A, between 5A and 4A, and just go straight up to the edge of the proposed gravel driveway, starting there, going parallel to that line between 4A and 3A, taper it back into the existing driveway, and then leave the existing driveway from there all the way up to the street alone. That gives them room to come into that driveway and then turn to the left, park one or two cars, at least one or two cars, at least one for sure, maybe two. And by doing that, you're providing the greatest amount of separation as you can from the resource area. And certainly you're not going to get 50, but you're going to taper it up to the existing driveway, which is no worse than it already is. And I think that's a viable alternative. And that's, as you're approaching the driveway from the street, that's the side to the left, not the right. So that ash tree, I don't believe that ash tree comes into play. I don't think the light comes into play, but unless I'm missing something from what you just said, Maureen. And I think the other piece of this that I'm hanging up on is if this was a paved driveway, it would have a far less impact than a gravel driveway, which needs a certain degree of maintenance, and that the fines wash out of it and can migrate over time. So I think all of those together say there is an alternative if you want it to be gravel, and I think the alternative is as I've just described it, and I think that's what Lou was describing. Am I correct, Lou?
Yes, no, that's right. You're right on the money.
So
yeah, and if you want it to be gravel, I think you got to do that to keep it an RDA. And if you want to pave it, we might have a separate discussion. There might be an RDA. But if you want it to be gravel and you want to leave it this way, you're going to get a positive determination, which is likely going to be a denial in a public hearing for an NOI. I mean, I'm just trying to be efficient with our time. I think
no,
we're at.
I understand. And I appreciate that, but even if the driveway gets tapered as suggested, we would still need the waiver from the 50-foot.
You don't need a 50-foot waiver for a 50-foot on a driveway.
I think she means a waiver from the 25-foot. But yes, I think,
Correct.
Maureen, what you're hearing is if you can make the accommodations that Lou's talking about, I think the commission is giving consideration to accepting this under an RDA and conditioning, making a waiver seem as a condition.
So we do not need a waiver. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say we would still need a waiver, but I think it would be, that waiver would be considered as a condition as far as the MACC rules and guidelines.
We do
If
not
I understood
need a
my other
waiver.
commissioners, if I understood my other commissioners correctly.
Just to clarify with the commission, we do not need a waiver from the 25-foot. And in the suggestion that the commissioners are making, we would still need a waiver. I understand it would be less impact, but we still need a waiver. The proposal is for a gravel extension. There's some benefit to this. We're providing infiltration for the existing driveway. I addressed all of the interests of the North Andover bylaws as well as the Wetland Protection Act. This does not have any effect. And I am going to refer to my client, Pat McLean, who's on this call, who is a family member who'd like to just speak to the commission on the project. Go ahead, Pat.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick McLean, and I have grown up in North Andover. Is all that went to school in North Andover. I graduated high school in 2012. 190 Mill Road is the house that I lived in throughout high school, and it is the place that I call home. So this might ring home with you. In 2017, my grandmother passed away unexpectedly, leaving my grandfather behind after 54 years of marriage. And congratulations on your 43 that you're coming up on. This literally broke my grandfather's heart less than a year after she passed away. She suffered a major heart attack, quadruple bypass surgery, and he moved into 190 Mill Road with my family. After recovering, he tried moving back to his house in Linfield, suffered from depression from living alone, and he moved back to 90 Mill Road. My parents moved out. My girlfriend and I moved in to help out my grandfather. So we all live here together. We have 3 adults living in this house. All 3 of us have vehicles. My grandfather has a vehicle. He also still has my grandmother's vehicle. He's not been able to let go so far. I have a personal vehicle and I have a work vehicle, and my girlfriend has these 5 vehicles at any time at the house, on a 2-wide driveway. Somebody's always blocked in, somebody's always parking over in the grassy area. You pull on and off of grass enough times, the grass rips away, you end up with mud, you end up with ruts. Last year, my grandfather, at the beginning of the spring, my grandfather pulled in and tried parking in the mud, slipped getting out of his car. Fortunately, he was not injured, but, you know, left with his clothes dirty and some help getting up off the ground. The second issue that we have is safety. Mill Road, if any of you have driven on Mill Road, you know it's a tight, windy, cut road. It's densely covered in trees and bush that is not well maintained or taken care of. It's poorly lit and cars speed. It's not an easy drive out onto the street. So not only would this extend our parking area for our family and make things a little bit easier, it would also allow us an area to back into and turn the car around so we're not backing out onto the driveway. Simply just trying to make our day-to-day task of coming to and from the house and being able to leave for work in the morning without shuffling cars around so we can get out. You know, the denial seems a little unfair. I know in 2018, there were 2 homes built across the street from us, surrounded by wetlands. And here we are at a standstill trying to put some gravel down. The reason why we asked for gravel is because I felt it would be less hindrance on the wetlands because it's a permeable product that the water can flow through. I did not realize that you guys prefer it to be paved. I'm sorry that we started this project without getting a permit. Genuinely, I did not know that I needed a permit to do this. I thought of putting crushed stone down the same as I think of putting bark mulch down, and clearly I was wrong. And I have learned my lesson, and this is the last time I'll make that mistake. We started this project on May 19th, and you can ask Amy. I was very attentive. Everything she asked me to do, I did. The day she came in and gave us the order to remove the equipment, I had the equipment off the property within an hour. I've done everything. I've followed everything you've asked me to do. We've spent thousands of dollars in engineering and drawings and doing these town meetings. I'm simply asking that we can finish the project we started on May 19th. We can put the gravel down and we can make our lives a little bit easier. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I understand your dilemma, but unfortunately for us, we try and we stake our reputation on being consistent. If we waver in any way, we end up, every application will be treated different. We'll lose all credibility to me, as far as, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. 3A, flag 3A is really close. Amy said 26 feet.
Yeah.
The guy comes in with his excavator and all of a sudden it's 24 feet. So I mean, it's a very touchy situation. The suggestions that we've had to bellow out the driveway, you could put 2 cars, keep the space next to the house that you had. You put 1 behind it. You have 2 for the 2-car garage. You have 3 cars, 4 cars. It's unfortunate where it is, but the wetlands are the wetlands. So I'll defer to my commissioners. If they're in favor of doing this, I'll wait. I'll stand by. But we'll go through again.
Lou, this is Jack. I have a question for the applicant. Okay to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, Jack. I'm sorry.
Okay. My question is, would the project work for you and meet your project goals if the disturbed area were positioned a little differently than what is proposed. And the difference being, the hatched area in green, basically adjacent to the garage on the left side of the house, as you have your back to Mill Road. If you could recover that, instead of eliminating that from disturbed area, make that area disturbed, but you would not disturb the area roughly halfway up your driveway to Mill Road. Okay, so that would be the basically that same size section, except relocate that down toward the street and to Mill Road. So basically it gives you a wider section up by the house and a narrower section tapering down into the driveway toward Mill Road. Would that meet your project goals? Because I think that's the layout that the other commissioners were trying to suggest earlier in this hearing.
Yeah, that would be something that we could work with. And the reason why we had eliminated that section is we thought that part of your concern in the last meeting was a catch basin that's located in our yard. So that's why we removed that area to wait from the catch basin that's located in our yard.
So the question I asked was if the disturbed area were reconfigured in the way described very well by Joe Lynch, would it meet your project goals?
Yes, if we could work from halfway up the driveway up along the side of our garage and have the crushed stone area be there, eliminate in the section of the street, that would be sufficient for us.
Okay. Lou, I'll turn it back to you, but it sounds like we have a meeting of the minds.
Yes, we do. Because I looked at this other photo, the way they had it set up with the picture of the excavator in the driveway. It doesn't, the plan shows that it was going straight down, and the plan and the picture that I'm looking at, it's got it going wide, really widening out at the end of Mill Street. So that wouldn't have flew anyways. But I'm very glad that the applicant is willing to waive, and I think that clearly is a legitimate alternatives analysis. Joe?
I agree.
Al?
I agree.
Jack, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do agree as well.
Sean?
I'm okay with it, yes.
All right. So what we do now? We have to, and I don't think you need a waiver for a driveway in a 50. Do we?
Not according to what Amy just read.
I mean, we see the alternatives analysis that it speaks to. So it says that driveways are allowed in the 50 as long as alternatives analysis shows there's no other location.
Okay, so we fill that obligation that we agreed with the alternatives analysis, so the driveway can be built within the 50.
Yeah, as long as we don't exceed 3 conditions, Lou.
Yeah.
Just don't exceed 3 conditions, and just have a revised drawing made that reflects the agreement.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree, Al. So I don't have any, there's no dimensions here. So I would say, Joe, what did you say? Flag 4A?
Yeah.
That we would start the taper and then go up? Is that what you're saying, Joe?
No, I'm saying stop the taper at, if opposite 5A up at the driveway.
Okay.
And have it conclude its taper at the existing driveway opposite 3A, which would make it parallel to the line between 4A and 3A. And
Okay.
in doing that, they've made it no closer than what's already there, and I think maintains the integrity of not needing a waiver.
Okay.
And at the same token, I think all that needs to be shown on a plan, and at the next meeting, you know, they get a negative determination.
Okay, yeah, because clearly, like as you described it, there's plenty of room for two cars. A car in the shaded area.
Everybody's agreeing with that. And Jack was very astute in pointing out that from a functionality perspective, it's dead on, better maybe than what was proposed, and it gets the permit from us.
Correct.
I think we're there.
All right, so Maureen, do you know what we're talking about now?
Yes, so how would you like to proceed from here? Is this something we could close subject to the revised plan, or would you like me to continue?
I would, that's a slippery slope. I think we should continue.
Okay,
And then this way, Amy can review the plan that you present to her, so she knows what we're talking about, and this way it'll be a much more smoother transaction when you apply.
okay, I'd like to request a continuance for 2 weeks, please.
All right,
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next one. Oh, geez. Too many papers. Next one is the Seer Recycling Center Boardwalk.
All right, so this is an RDA submitted by the Friends of North Andover Trails. They are proposing to install a boardwalk within an existing section of the Bay Circuit Trail that's located behind the Seer Recycling Center and the Berry Street soccer fields, that vicinity. Right now, the trail does pass through the wetland, and lead-ins are on either side or in the buffer zone. And this area gets really wet, boggy, muddy. They are experiencing the fact that trail users attempt to bypass this really muddy area and wet areas and try to walk on top of the narrow stone wall, or bypass and try to create another trail on the other side, on the opposite side. So it's a dangerous situation, and it's also creating much more impact to their surrounding landscape when people try to make intertwining trails to avoid hazards. Mirroring the same design as the boardwalk at the Boxford State Forest that the commission permitted in 2019 under an RDA, they are proposing to construct a 150-foot long, 36-inch wide boardwalk, elevated at least 18 inches over the BBW, to be supported by swamp pans. The swamp pans were, photos of those were provided in the application. If deemed necessary, construction of a 16-foot lead-in sections in the buffer to be supported by sleepers. Materials are to be either pre-cut or cut outside the buffer zone. And so I did a site inspection. It was a while ago, but we looked at this area, and we also popped across the street to Harold Parker, and they showed me what the what do you call them? The swamp pans look like for another part of a trail that they constructed in Harold Parker. And honestly, it's you know, it was a real neat, tidy job, and you couldn't, there was no impact to the wetland itself. It was, you know, a very good design. So if you want my recommendations now, or
Please, yes.
okay. So as with the Boxford State Forest determination, issue a negative number 3 and a negative number 2, and require that the applicant notify the Conservation Department prior to work. All work shall be conducted using hand tools and equipment in accordance with the work description referenced. And should be no cutting of wood within the wetland resources or the buffer zone. And then a final site inspection with the Conservation Department staff to verify as-built conditions.
Thank you, Amy. Joe, any questions?
I guess I'm curious is Friends of the North Andover Trails on the line with us this evening?
Yes.
The no cutting of wood, is that something that is feasible for you folks? Or if you were to bring it in bulk, would you cut it and be able to just gather the cuttings, and bring them back out? Or you'd rather pre-cut it and bring it in pieces anyway? I'm kind of curious what your preference is.
What we found is helpful for us is we will do most of the cutting in somebody's garage and do the garage in the driveway and do the assembly there and just bring in the parts that we need and put them into place.
Okay, so if we were to condition no cutting of wood, that does not impact your ability to undertake this work, correct? You're able to, in fact, you prefer to do it that way.
We prefer to do that, and I think for the most part, 95%, there might be an instance we might have to cut something on site, and we can do it outside the buffer zone by going back, what is it, 50 feet?
Well, the buffer is 100, but
100. We can go back 100 feet because there's a trail there, and we'll just because it'll be minimal cutting.
Basically, just trimming.
Will be any final adjustment that will have to be made.
I have no further questions.
Al?
Hi, I have just a couple quick ones. I'm looking at photo number 3 of the stone wall that runs through the wetland. Is the trail, is the improved trail intending to follow along that stone wall, or do you have an alternative route that you're using?
The stone wall is an alternative people use. And it's very dangerous. It's Massacut. The trail is actually to the right of the wall, about 10 to 15 feet, roughly. And finally, it's sort of like if you're going down the trail, you take a right about 25 feet before the stone wall and follow it down about 100, 120 feet, and you'll match up with the stone wall, and the trail is above the wetlands at that point in time. So it's angles back to the stone wall. The trail angles to the stone wall normally. Well, we'll keep off the stone wall, which is what people alternatively do when the area is too wet to traverse.
No, I understand. I've done it myself. So I just so that I do understand, you're not proposing any modification to the wall. Rather, you're proposing to build around it in some way.
Yeah, we'll not touch that wall at all. That's no.
Okay, that's I appreciate that. And my final question is, what kind of wood are you actually going to use?
It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's fir. It's natural wood. It's not composite.
Okay, not pressure treated or chemically treated, just regular true wood.
If I'm not mistaken, that's correct. I'm trying to think back now. The 4x4s, I have to double check, but I think they're just regular wood. It's not pressure treated at all. Okay, very good. Those are my questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Al. Jack?
Yeah, one of my questions was about the makeup of the wood, whether it's going to be pressure treated or not. So, I mean, that is an important thing that we have kind of set a precedent on. I can recall a boardwalk that the trustees did just off of Mass Ave, and there was a section. I think we required the section that was within 50 feet of the wetland on either side to be constructed of something other than pressure treated wood. So I think that's an important thing to determine. Although, having said that, I've been between those fields many times with soccer teams, soccer players, and everything. And this is a very good project, and one I support, fully. In fact, to the point where FONAD is a nonprofit organization, and I would like the commission to consider waiving the $165 filing fee for this project, if we can work out the details and get it done right. That's all I have, Lou.
Thanks, Jack. Sean?
If Jack's prepared to pay that $165 fee, I'm on board. Sure.
What a guy, Jack.
I think, Lou, one other question. When I have no objection to Jack's spirit and intent, I just want to use caution. I don't think FONAD is the only not-for-profit that comes before us. We should use caution. If we choose to waive a not-for-profit, we may find out there are a multitude of them that are before us at various times. So no objection, just basically watch out.
Like I said, I'm indifferent. So whatever the board wants to do, the commission wants to do.
Well, I'm just saying, if we open the door,
yeah.
The next 10 not-for-profits are going to expect the same treatment. So, which direction do you want to go in? I'm usually the devil's advocate, and I'm playing that role now.
Okay.
And as they say on TV, discuss.
No,
All right.
Point.
Okay. So, I appreciate your attention, Jack, but like I said before, this commission is known for its consistency. So I really don't like Al said. That's kind of a slippery slope that we probably shouldn't get into.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I think it was worth considering, but I understand the concern.
I think Jack, and I don't disagree with you, buddy. I think it's a wonderful idea. Maybe we should all consider making individual and personal donations, and leave the regulation intact.
Can I interrupt for a second, please? I was just informed that we do use pressure treated wood on the boardwalk, so I don't want to mislead anybody or anything like that. So, do we need to have a discussion on that?
Well, we should know where it is, because my memory is that pressure treated wood does contain a certain amount of arsenic, and I'm not a scientist, and I don't play one on TV. I don't know how much damage that could cause to the critter populations. I guess I'd have to put that out to someone that knows more about it than me.
You're not talking about me, are you, Al?
Now, I'm going to look something up on the internet while we're talking, or while you guys are talking. I believe pressure-treated wood no longer contains arsenic of any sort, but I want to verify that before I say that emphatically. And if that's the case, we can simply condition that non-arsenic treated wood is used.
Understood.
That's the way I would. Natural wood, using natural wood in water, it definitely would not be good as far as longevity. But like Joe says, I think he's right. I think they got rid of arsenic a while ago.
Well, let's find out, because if that's the case, that's perfect. That solves the problem.
We'll make sure it is non-arsenic treated wood.
Okay.
Our
Right,
concern,
so what
your concern also.
the American Lumber Association, pressure-treated lumber used to be treated with chromated copper arsenate, which it no longer contains. So I think if we were to say non-arsenic treated pressure wood, we would be not constraining them, because I think there are other alternatives that they can get out there. In fact, I think there are no alternatives that include arsenic anymore.
That sounds like a good solution, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion.
What's the motion need to contain?
It's an RDA. It's an RDA.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question of the applicant, and just as it's a matter of durability and functionality over years to come. We know that I think I remember there's a pretty burgeoning beaver population out here, and maybe that's where the water condition is coming from. Do we know at what elevation this boardwalk should be at to make this durable for years to come?
It's approximately 2 to 3 feet in height from the very lowest point. And what we typically do, what we did over in another part of the trail, we wrapped the beams that sit in the water with fencing, so the beavers cannot get at it, because that was a real concern at another boardwalk. That beavers were active in that area. Doesn't seem to be any beavers active in this area, but just as a precaution, we will put some fencing around the 4x4s that go into the swamp pans.
So you're actually addressing a question I didn't consider and that I wasn't asking. I'm not talking about for the critters eating the boardwalk. I'm concerned with water inundation and the boardwalk floating, coming loose and floating. Do we know that it's going to be high enough that as the water rises over seasons, that the thing just simply doesn't dislodge and float away?
Yeah, it will be high enough. We've seen it at the highest level back about 2 years ago. So we'll be above that level and then some.
Okay.
Sure that we don't want it to flow away. The swamp pans are very good and stable. They settle down into the mud and they stay there. That's been our experience throughout Boxford State Forest and the Harold Parker, where there has been no movement whatsoever on the swamp pans.
Okay, sorry for that last minute question, Lou. I'm all set.
That's okay. Well, why don't you give the motion then?
Amy, what conditions would you suggest for this? We have the pressure treated, we have the non-arsenic pressure treated wood.
Yeah. Making sure there's hand tools and equipment, manual labor, basically.
No cutting inside the 100-foot.
Inside 100-foot buffer zone, and then just letting us know when it's done.
Pre and post.
And so to keep those conditions to a minimum, Amy, your third bullet is all excess material shall be removed from the site. Mm-hmm. You could expand upon that to keep it a single condition, is only non-arsenic lumber shall be used, and all excess material shall be removed and roll them together into keeping the conditions to a minimum.
Yep. Okay.
Sounds good.
So that would be it would be a negative number 3 for work in the buffer and negative number 2 for work for the boardwalk portion in the BVW.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving stuff out. Next one is 1592 Salem Street.
Okay, this is a RDA application involving demolition of an existing small deck and removal of a small fieldstone patio off the right side of the house. Proposed construction of a 22 by 22 garage addition with an attached breezeway and a rear deck. Deck is to receive crushed stone underneath. The proposed driveway, they're going to be an addition to the driveway to square it off so that the entrance to the new garage is more square and easier accessed. Part of the asphalt addition is in the very outer limits of the buffer, and then the rest of it's outside of the buffer zone. All work is outside of the 50-foot no build, and the closest point of the work, which is the deck, is 61 feet from the BBW. Plan changes were made at my request to include a stone infiltration trench to capture a portion of the new roof runoff from the garage and breezeway. Also, a construction access and stockpile area has been depicted on the plan, and both of those are outside of the buffer zone. Camp Environmental delineated the wetland, and I found it to be accurate. Consultant estimates that the excavation for the foundation will last a day, and materials will be either hauled off or stockpiled outside of the buffer. The site is really flat, so there's no slopes to be concerned about. And all the work is with an existing lawn, so no trees or other vegetation will need to be removed to accommodate the new garage and breezeway and deck. There's an existing shed on the property, and that is within the 50-foot no-build zone. I asked the consultant to research historic aerials, and we have a 1978 aerial that clearly shows the shed, which predates the regulations. And I observed no other outstanding issues or violations of concern on the site. So if you want my recommendation.
Please.
Okay,
Please.
so I think I know it's a structure, but due to the flat topo of the site, a short time frame for excavation, and the distances of the structures to the wetland, and there's ample room outside the buffer for, stockpiling, materials storage, equipment movement, and personnel parking. RDA may be sufficient for this project, and I would recommend a negative number 3 with 3 conditions: that prior to Conservation Commission or Conservation Department sign off of the building permit, that a pre-construction site visit be scheduled to observe installed erosion controls. A foundation as-built plan shall be submitted upon completion of the poured foundation, and then a post-construction site visit to verify compliance and remove erosion controls. That's all I have.
Thank you. Joe?
I don't really have any questions, though this is probably one of the more aggressive RDAs I think I've seen, but for all the reasons Amy stated, it very well might be an RDA. I'll defer any other further questions till my colleagues ask theirs.
Thank you, Joe. Al?
Same thing. I'm going to defer. It's on the edge.
Okay. My only thing is to Amy. We discussed this earlier today, so you know how we talked about it, and you're seeing a reflection of it right now.
Yep.
About RDA and NOIs. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, moving forward, basically rejecting the RDA at the time of submittal. I think that's what you're telling me, Lou.
Yes. Like we've been talking regularly, Amy and I, about when in doubt, go to the next class. Small projects. Any doubt, go to an RDA, and if there's an RDA is an issue, go to an NOI. And I know as soon as I saw structure, I knew Joe was going to say something. So moving forward, and it was a little bit of adage. These people filed the RDA before Amy got a hold of it, so it was a little bit convoluted. Jack?
Yeah, we have a lot of things working in our favor on this one. Setbacks being probably the most important, as well as the flat topography. One thing that Amy mentioned that I think is going to be important in execution of the project, and that is, I think they're only anticipating 1 day of excavation, or a very quick, disturbance period before they basically, get things poured and get out of the ground. I think it would be if we do an RDA, that would be important to make sure that they execute as planned. And if not, if something goes wrong, if they dig a hole and there's a huge boulder in there, then all of a sudden, one day of disturbance turns into a month and a half. Why, we need to know that, and it might be, reason to have an enforcement order or take further steps. So I think one of the conditions should be, if we do RDA, one of the conditions should be to communicate very closely with our administrator from the period of time just before excavation until after excavation is completed and foundation walls are backfilled. So that's my only major concern. Otherwise, I agree with you guys. It's kind of borderline for an RDA, but the project has some definite benefits that we should consider.
Thank you, Jack. Sean?
Lou?
So, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, looking at the plan and what's looking to be done here, it does seem like an awful significant project for an RDA. I mean, it looks like the proposed work is going to be a perimeter of 32 by 22. It looks on the plan almost as big as the house it's attached to, plus the bituminous concrete driveway, and taking out some patio as well as decking, etc. So I do think it's approvable, but I do think it's a significant project under an RDA, and I don't recall seeing a footprint that large where there's for all intents and purposes, a dwelling going to go under an RDA.
Yeah, but our problem is that we're kind of in a rock and hard place. The staff approved and said that they did an RDA without our knowledge, and then it kind of slipped through the cracks. I think moving forward, I think our staff realizes that it's not going to happen again. She knows that we talked about it today.
Yep.
It's a learning curve. It takes a little bit for her to learn what we do as a commission, and she's doing a fine job. I think that in this circumstance, it's tough to approve this RDA, but I think in this case we should unfortunately we should go with it.
So Lou, I just want to dovetail that. So, and I'm not looking to throw the consultant under the bus, but I did request to review the plan before they filed. And they decided just to submit the RDA. And message received on that. And I think it's a message out to the consultants as well that, check with me, please, before you file. Because, I don't want this to happen again. What's tough though is when people submit the day of the deadline, and if I reject, then that's another 2 or 3 weeks delay for them. So maybe that's just me being a softie with people with schedules and time and money, but so I get it, and I'll just try to make sure I communicate that as I talk to consultants moving forward.
Thank you, Amy.
So that begs a question. So what is the I mean, this is background that's, I don't know how relevant it is to the actual wetland, but so if I understand it right, you were expecting to receive a plan and then inform the applicant as to whether or not you thought it should be an RDA or an NOI, and instead the RDA just got filed?
Correct.
Okay, I'm comfortable with my position.
Me too. I want to make sure I want to make sure I'm very clear on where we are with that position, where I am with that position. Again, we understand the constraints with COVID and staffing concerns and whatnot, but typically any applicant would test the waters and have a conversation with staff prior to following a particular course of action that they might choose to take. And that was offered in this instance. And for whatever reason, part of that offering included submitting a plan, let me give it a look over and determine which is more appropriate, one or the other. And the applicant, denied themselves an opportunity by simply filing directly. That's what I'm hearing. And if that's the case, I'm crystal clear on where we are on this, or where I am on this. And I don't think the staff has any culpability at all, especially where the applicant chose to not follow particular instruction that we might have given. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing something. You know, did we perhaps, and I'm not suggesting anybody did, but did we perhaps mislead or didn't offer clear understanding of what it is they're bringing to us? And I'm not even sure that makes a difference in this filing. But this may be a one-day excavation, but I can tell you that I'm in the midst of building an addition right now, and the excavation was quite simple. And 4 weeks later, I'm still rough graded and not stabilized yet. Nowhere near a wetland, by the way. But the reality is, regardless of how flat your site is, your excavation may be one day. But by the time you get your footings poured and let them set up, and your foundation walls formed and poured, and your inspections done, and then let the walls set up and then backfill, you're looking at least 7 days, if not a couple of weeks, before all that happens, not counting grading and stabilizing. And if we were to consider an RDA and they were to move forward in the next couple of weeks, the chance of getting any grass seed or anything to take out here, regardless of how flat it is pretty nil. So I think given all of that, I think we're looking at a positive determination based on the fact they filed an RDA to test the waters, which is one of the outcomes. It can be a positive. And I think it's what we're looking at. And unless we made a mistake at staff level or even at a commission level, I've yet to be convinced we have made that mistake. I think this is a positive.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I tend to agree with you, but I'm not sure. We'd have to hit, Amy, you'd have to, no way you misled these people. You told them you wanted to see a plan, and you tell them what to apply accordingly, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what Joe said is he's right. If staff didn't steer them in any one way or the other, they filed the wrong application.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I move that we issue a positive determination.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And Amy, if there's one other reason why you can reinforce from the minutes that we've discussed.
Great.
Okay. All right. The next one is a notice of intent. 242-1792 Stevens Coolidge Place.
Okay. Okay. So commission recall that all members were on site conducting a site. They have conducted a site inspection, and several requests for supplemental information was made. The commission received a hydrologic analysis from Moore and Cameron Group, and that demonstrates that the post pond enhancement project decreases runoff to the Old Village Lane neighborhood by about 22,877 cubic feet. And that's done by splitting the flow into two directions. So the pond will be discharging through the stone discharge trench that they had proposed, but that's been rerouted to daylight to the northeast toward the A series BDW. And that will carry a portion of that runoff. The rest of the runoff will continue north as it usually does through a spillway and then overland flow. The applicant performed 3 test pits along the discharge trench route. Seasonal groundwater table is between 24 and 29 inches below grade. The engineer states that the bottom of the trench will be above these elevations. Dewatering detail and location has been called out in the plan, and it's outside of the buffer zone. Compost area has been more formally depicted on the plan. The greenhouse pump discharge is indeed groundwater. Wildlife habitat survey has been done. It shows that existing conditions of mowed lawn lack key wildlife habitat features, and that the IVW enhancement will increase the diversity of these features and improve habitat functions. Invasive species have been thoroughly documented, and an O&M plan for their management is part of the package. They provide an expanded alternatives analysis discussion. Let's see, and then trustees provided a letter explaining their intentions to increase ecological education opportunities, with the IVW enhancement a key focal point as part of this effort. It seems as though that the applicant has provided a very comprehensive and thoughtful response to the commission's requests. And if you guys want to have any follow-up questions, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks. You want to give you recommendations, but it's pretty well straightforward.
Yeah. So, you know, if hopefully there isn't any more need for information, I would recommend closing the hearing and issue an order. And I've drafted a draft decision for you this evening.
Thank you, Amy. Joe?
My questions have been answered and expectations met. All set.
Thank you, Joe. Al?
No questions, sir.
Okay. I would say you have an updated plan about the stockpiling and the construction access, Amy?
Right. Yes, you talked about that. Right.
Yes.
So let's see. So that dewatering, we talked about dewatering. BMPs must be set up on site prior to construction. The plan be updated to provide a construction access and a stockpile area.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm satisfied as well. I just think that we should have as a prior to construction condition removal of the what they call a compost pile. I guess it's kind of on the eastern side of the property. That should be prior to construction. Yep. And then the boardwalk that they have going through the new wet meadow, we should require non-arsenic wood for that construction. Mm-hmm. And that's all I have. But I think that's more for the decision.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, that's true. Sean?
Well, Lou, I think in this case, as earlier, the applicant is a charitable entity, so I would move to have Jack Maben pay for the administrative fees involved in this.
Second.
Oh my God.
You see what I'm saying here?
Al, I didn't get it at first. I sure do now.
It's quite a different kettle of fish, fellas.
I'm just saying.
I don't know. We keep doing this. You actually need a second job.
Well.
All right. With all being said, we need a motion.
I'll move that we close and issue in 21 days or less.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. And that was nice work by the commissioner. Everybody made the site review, and we got everything that we'd asked for, and they were very compliant. So I'd be interested to see when it's finished. The next one is 242-1794, 335 Willow Street.
So the commission will recall this is a project for 2 additions to an industrial building, repaving and regrading of the existing parking lot, stormwater management of new roof system. And the commission was waiting on the planning board to close on their hearing and issue their decision, which they did at their last hearing, and issued a approval decision. So final plans and documents I provided just to refresh your memories. I recommend closing the hearing and issuing an order, and I've drafted a decision for you this evening.
Thank you. Joe, any questions?
No questions.
Al?
No questions.
Jack?
No questions, Lou.
Sean?
No questions.
Motion?
Close and issue in 21 days or sooner.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Next one is 242-1795, 597 Foster Street.
Okay, so the commission will recall asking for supplemental information and revisiting of some elements of the project. So as a rundown, I revisited the site with the consultant. We reviewed surveyed wetland stakes versus our flag adjustments that we made in the field. And the revised plan now accurately reflects the wetland based on my site observations and soil samples taken. Let's see, this includes straightening the wetland line to show that the former barn floor concrete pad is within the wetland. We walked all of the wetland areas to look for evidence of vernal pool function. I researched the natural heritage endangered species mapping and reviewed historic files on file with the Conservation Department for surrounding properties to see if any of these wetlands were identified as potential vernal pools, and I found none. There are no indicators of vernal pool determinations on the natural heritage mapping. And based on my observations of the wetlands themselves, there's really no areas that look to be deep enough that would support the hydro period that's required for a vernal pool. So I feel comfortable saying that I don't think there's vernal pool habitat out there. Historic aerials have been provided to show that the barn was present, and with the earliest aerial being 1971, which predates the Wetlands Act and the bylaw. The applicant is suggesting that removal of this concrete pad would result in greater impact to the wetland than leaving it in place, and therefore requesting that it allowed to remain. The attached or the included letter provides further discussion about the relocated driveway to be equipped with a stone infiltration trench. Rationale for keeping the proposed driveway as is within the 50-foot no build is driven by the fact that the grading for the new septic system is within the footprint of the existing driveway and in front of the garage. So the garage is no longer usable as a garage. So they're losing that space. They also note the narrowness of Foster Street right away, which is 18 feet wide, and makes it hard for side road parking. The new driveway is slightly smaller than the existing in footprint. The proposed rear patio materials have been changed from poured concrete to dry laid pavers so that porosity and filtration will be maintained. The footprint of the patio is partially already asphalt that wraps around the house. And that is in the 50-foot no build. Let's see, as mitigation for the driveway and the patio, they are offering 1,583 square feet of wetland restoration in an area that is currently and historically maintained as lawn. And it will be replanted with native trees and shrubs and allowed to revert to a natural state. And that's sort of a rundown as to what we have for updated information. I don't know if you want to discuss or.
Well, what are your recommendations?
Well, so I think that the local regs allow for driveways, like we just discussed on 190 Mill, allow for driveways to be located in the 50-foot no build zone when no other alternatives are identified. It really appears that this site is really highly constrained by the wetlands and mainly a septic system that there's no really other feasible location for the septic. So it impacts the function of the property with the driveway and the garage. So I feel that the driveway is allowable. So I think there's no more need for information, so closing the hearing would be appropriate. And I took the liberty of drafting a decision for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Amy. The only questions I have is is it more than one waiver? It says finally discuss waivers.
Well, the patio would be a waiver, and if the commission determines that the driveway doesn't need a waiver, then it would only be one. And if the commission's okay with considering the concrete pad as pre-regulation, then that would go away as well.
Okay, so it was 3 waivers altogether. So we talked about the pad. Well, we haven't talked about it. And I asked you about the patio and the asphalt around, and you said it was in the work area, correct?
Yes, it's inside limit of work, so it would be accessed during, preparation for the septic system.
Okay. So this way the commission knows. All right, Joe, any questions?
No, that's exactly the question I was going to ask is if it's in the work area, is it really removing of that pad? Is it really causing more disruption? And even if it's not causing more disruption, if it pre-exists, should we consider allowing it to continue to be there? I guess that's the question that's being asked. And, I mean, I'm right on the fence on this one. I think it probably can and ought to come out, and I haven't been convinced of why it ought to stay in, other than that I think they want it to be there. But I could be convinced otherwise as you guys ask other questions.
Okay.
Right now, Amy, your recommendation is to leave it there, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, again, I haven't been to the site, and your eyes are better than mine.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Al?
Thank you. My position on the concrete pad is I actually agree with the applicant. It's been there for probably more than 65 years. It predates basically all the regulations that we can refer to, and it in likely, as much as concrete pad can, it has likely become a part of the ecosystem where it sits. I don't think that we'd be doing that area any good by demolishing it and digging it up. Just my own opinion. I'd leave it if the decision were mine to make, and I'm good with the rest of it.
Okay, thanks, Al. What I was asking before, I mean, the pad is the pad, so I think we cause more disruption taking it out where the old barn pad is. The part I was talking about was the sidewalk that is part of a patio. They want to make a patio
Behind the house.
behind the house,
Right.
and that's in the scope of work. I mean, the excavator is going to be there digging out the for the septic system.
Right. And there's a retaining wall on the side of it too, that has to retain some of the grading for the, so they're going to be right there rebuilding that retaining wall as well. And a big corner of the house is in the 50. So the house itself is in the 50.
Okay. So I don't have any questions. The only question, and it's a comment, and I'll probably get in trouble for doing it, but I'm going to do it anyways. I know Maureen's on the phone. I just want to let you know, Maureen, this is going to be a get out of jail free card for me, because I didn't particularly care when you flagged the wetlands. You went around that concrete pad. I knew it was wrong, and it stuck out like a sore thumb. So in the future, please do your diligence and keep your credibility by doing the right thing. Jack?
Yeah, getting back to the existing concrete pad where the barn used to be. I think I agree with Al. I think it would cause more of a disturbance than to remove it than to leave it in place. And I think that restoration area that they have proposed is going to do a lot more good than any disturbance of that concrete pad. So I like the direction of the project, especially there. This is a tough one. It's just, there's so much going on, but all of it's dictated by the septic system requirements and just the tight layout of the site. So I'm in favor of this as submitted.
Thanks, Jack. Sean? I guess we must have bored Sean to death.
He's on mute.
You there, Sean?
Sorry, guys. You are 100% correct. I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's only one of my two technical difficulties. I had a hard time accessing this plan, but I do finally have it in front of me. And I'm sorry to have to repeat what was already said. So the places they're looking for possible waivers are the pad. And I see, is that the proposed paver patio?
Proposed paver patio is in the 50, and that would require a waiver. If the commission agrees that the concrete pad in the wetland is 1971, which predates even the Wetlands Protection Act,
yep,
then maybe a waiver for that is not required. And then, as we just discussed with 190 Mill, the driveway being in the 50 based on no other alternatives.
Yep. So I guess I'm okay with the concrete pad that's been there since the beginning of time. The proposed patio, that's pavers. Is that a pervious surface? Guessing.
Yep. They were going to do a poured concrete, but they changed it to a paver, dry lake. Yep.
And everything concerning the driveway is due to the necessity of putting the septic system there, right?
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, so we still have to vote on a waiver, correct?
Yeah, for the patio at the very rear of the house.
For the patio. We
Do
should
we
have
also-
Sean do it.
Do we also?
Go ahead.
I
I'm
have
sorry,
I
are
have
we
a
looking to
question.
waive a concrete pad that's been existing there forever? I don't think we.
No.
You know,
No. It's the walk, it's the patio and a walk behind the house that's made up of asphalt, and they're gonna make it bigger. Correct, Amy?
Yeah,
okay, I didn't, that didn't come up during the,
some of the asphalt from the existing driveway wraps around, right around behind the house, against the house. So what they want to do is take that up and replace it with a paver patio that's slightly larger in size.
so right now that's asphalt?
Yes, part of it is asphalt, yes.
What's the other part?
Grass.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
again, a big chunk of the house is in the 50.
right, and now it's just getting another couple feet closer. So yeah, I personally wouldn't be in favor of expanding any impervious surface concerning the backside of the house or the side where it looks like it meets the steps. If there's stuff that's there that's already paved, I would ask when that was paved, and if it was paved before our bylaw, I consider it, like kind of like grandfather type analogy. But if it wasn't, then it was paved without our permission, then it shouldn't have been paved. And I don't think we should put pavers there. How close is that to the wetland? Just so I'm making sure I understand everything.
All right, let me get this. This is 1 to 10, so hold on.
So yeah, I'm looking at it. You don't have to look. I see it at the corner. It's about 28 feet.
So
As long as it's outside.
40 feet.
Yep. At the corner though, it gets about 20. Okay. But those are just my thoughts.
Amy, do we also need a waiver for that retaining wall?
Probably.
And I know it's required by the septic, by the leaching field to contain that leaching field, but I think the retaining wall is one of the structures that was called out in the bylaw. So the patio, yeah. I think it's the patio and the
retaining wall. Yeah.
Retaining wall. Yeah. And the driveway.
Yeah. But I think, well, I don't know, maybe Maureen can speak to the need for the retaining wall.
So the retaining wall is necessary for the septic system installation.
Okay.
In the grading for that, it's going to be a raised system. So we need the wall for the system.
How high is it going to be, Maureen? How many feet above the ground? Do you know?
So the top of the system will be 103, and just trying to find 99, and then the grade near the house is at 99. Okay. So you're looking at 4 feet.
Top of the wall is 101.78. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, they need the wall.
Yeah. So we got that one. That way, we have to approve. Well, we can approve that one for starters.
Do you need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion for the waiver for the wall.
I move that we approve the waiver request for the retaining wall.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous, right, Sean? I gotta double check.
He might have been on
Yes,
mute.
no objection to the retaining wall necessitated by the septic system.
Okay, thank you, Sean. The other one is the waiver for the driveway. There is no alternatives analysis. There really isn't any alternatives to put the driveway anywhere else. So we need a motion for that waiver.
Actually, we don't need a waiver for that, do we? Because we did the alternative and it is allowed without any feasible alternative.
Okay, that's
Correct.
right. You're right, Jack. Thank you.
That's correct.
The other one is the concrete slab. And
That doesn't need a waiver either, Mr.
and
Chairman.
that doesn't need a waiver either. Okay. So last but not least is the paver patio, and they're ripping up the hot top and able to, that's already there. I'm willing to bet that we're not going to have the record of when it was put in and when it was not, but
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one.
yeah.
My client had texted me that asphalt behind the house was built as part of the house. And she's on the line, Jody, if you'd like to confirm that.
No. Well, when was the house built? Do you remember?
No.
The land was built, my grandfather bought the land in 1963 and the house was completed in 64.
Okay, so that blows that out of the water. All right, so, and the hot top was there when the house was built, so.
Yes, yes.
So
That's where we used to milk the goat.
Oh,
Was in the house.
All right, so how do we want to go about the patio with the walk?
Well, from what I understand, are you talking about the patio that goes around the corner, the 2-foot wide one?
Yes.
Well, from what I understand, part of it's paved, but part of it's lawn. So if it's the part is paved, has been there since the 60s, I would be okay with that converting to pavers, but wouldn't want to. I'd be against expanding it.
Okay.
Well, this is Jody talking. The pad where the paver is there's the septic system too, right? The existing septic system is right behind it.
yeah, the tank.
The
Existing.
tank, sorry. So the tank is right there now.
So is that coming out?
Yes, that's coming out.
So the grass isn't going to be there too long.
No.
How big? I didn't even look. Is there a spec on the patio?
So we're looking for 70 square feet for an extension. That would be the new area. It's about 3.5 feet wide by 20.
20 feet long.
Yeah.
And where does it go? Does it go? Does it? As I'm looking at the proposed, if I understand this right, we're still talking about the one that goes around the back of the house, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, because it says here it's 2-foot wide. Oh, that's an infiltration trench. Never mind. So that's really 3.5 feet wide. And right now, what is the paved area? What's the existing condition? Where does it start and end?
It's an asphalt, so it goes from the
It's part of the
driveway
driveway.
and it wraps around the back of the house.
Oh, I get it.
How wide is that?
6.5 feet.
Okay. And proposed to be 10.
Yeah.
But it's going all the way.
Yep.
With the existing, it's going to go as far as the existing paved area is. It's going to go the whole length.
Correct. So we would just like to extend it out by 3.5 feet so it lines up with the corner of the house. And then it will connect to the retaining wall. And it's pervious.
I must be looking at the wrong. Let me see here. Well, this is-
Where's the current entrance off of Foster Street? It's the same entranceway, right? I mean, it's the same cutout.
So Sean, are you looking at the consultant's design team plan? Civil engineers, AS group. You looking? Is that the plan you're looking at? Okay, so if you're looking at the colored one, to the left of the house is the proposed driveway. That's shown in tan with an infiltrated, L-shaped infiltrated trench to the left of, in back of it. To the right, opposite side of that frontage is the existing driveway, which is going to be abandoned. The septic system's going to the right, which is why they need to abandon that driveway. But that driveway goes all the way in off the street to the side of the house, up to the rear of the house. If you see that cross-hatched line, that's the existing driveway. So it's that additional distance up by the retaining wall we just talked about, which they're proposing to extend the patio. It's 3, 4, 5 feet thereabouts by eye. I'm not measuring. So that's the area that's in contention. Everything, it's the driveway that's being removed, and at the end of that driveway that turned behind the house was also paved. Really talking about that little area, 3 to 5 feet across the back of the house. That's an extension of what was previously paved. Am I correct?
Yes.
So if I can reiterate, I mean, just focusing on the patio right now is 20 feet by 6.5. That's impervious asphalt. What they're proposing is to make that 10 feet wide by 20 feet long. Instead of 6.5 feet wide, it's 10 feet wide by 20 feet long. And that will be with landscaping pavers and a pervious surface, or semi-pervious if you want. So although we're losing some area, we are gaining some recharge. So the little bit we're losing in area, we're gaining the whole area in recharge. So I personally would be in favor of it as proposed.
Yeah, Jack, this is Joe again, and me too as well. Given the fact that even with that extension, it's going a little further than what's already paved, and it's going up to the limits of where the house already is. And we've just discussed that we're going to grant a waiver for the retaining wall, which extends much further out. So I think all of those together, added to the fact that the driveway proposed seems to be smaller than what is currently there now, and not only smaller, but also has infiltration around its perimeter as well. So I think that there's a net gain even with this little bit of extension of a patio. And just for all those reasons, it's already confined by other improvements.
All right.
I'm agreeing with from my perspective, I would approve this waiver.
All right, well, why don't you move to approve the waiver?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? No opposed. Okay, so we're all set with the waivers. All right. So
Sounds like we're ready to close it.
Yes, we are.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. We're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Amy, for all your help with this project.
Well,
Have a
thank
good night.
you too.
All right, next one. An amendment on 242-1766, 1600 Osgood Street.
Okay, the commission was waiting for the planning board to issue its decision, which it did last week, and it was an approval. I attached to your emails just updated information, peer review from Horsley Witten that addresses the commission's questions from the last meeting, an updated letter from the abutter, stating that they're completely satisfied with the proposal and making no other requests for review or information. And I think hopefully that addresses the commission's concerns from the last meeting. I would recommend closing the hearing and issuing an amended order of conditions, and I've drafted up an amended order for your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Amy. Joe, any questions?
I'm satisfied.
Oh, thank you. Al?
No questions.
Jack?
No questions, Lou.
Sean?
No, sir.
Okay, motion.
I move that we accept the amendment to the order of conditions for 242-1766.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous.
Well,
Thank you.
we'll need to
Do we?
close the hearing too.
Wait, we have another one, don't we? Don't we have 201 Marble Ridge?
No, but
No.
we need to close the hearing on.
The amendment is required a hearing, so we need to close that hearing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. There we are.
Good.
Okay, now we have.
Hey guys, it's Mike Howard. Lou, I just want to say thank you. I didn't want to sit on the phone for the past couple hours. I'm saying hi to you guys. Thanks for doing that. We appreciate it. And we'll stay in touch as this project moves forward. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, we have enforcement order 242.
Yeah,
Well, 1751. Certificate of compliance.
right.
Me.
So it's a combination enforcement order and certificate of compliance for 2017 Salem Street.
Okay. I just don't want to put the cart in front of the horse.
Right. Let's do the EO first.
Okay.
So the commission will recall that there is a drainage trench that was required along the side of the driveway for 2017 Salem. In between the as-built and by the time the certificate of compliance was requested, that trench was filled in with loam and seed, and the commission issued an enforcement order requiring its removal and restoration. The homeowner contracted with a contractor to help them restore or get this swale into compliance. Chairman and I met with that contractor out on site and made recommendations. I've attached photos of the revised swale and materials that were placed in. So we have incorporated 6-inch minus riprap into that swale. I think, based on last night's rain, I drove by and it seemed to hold up from last night's rain. So I think we're in better shape. And I don't know if Lou has any thoughts to share. But go ahead.
No, it's not exactly what we tried to explain to them, but it'll function. The main thing that I was interested in was them digging alongside the roadway down, so that any water came in there would leach into the subsoil. Mm-hmm. They did that, but I was hoping that the road stone was going to be right up against the driveway, but they did it a different way. But it does function, so yeah. That's all.
Yeah. So for the enforcement order, I would just recommend lifting the enforcement order, and then we can talk about the certificate of compliance.
Any questions, Joe?
None whatsoever. This is a great example of working through a difficult problem and everybody getting to the right conclusion. Took a while to get there, but good job.
Good. Al?
Lou, I'm looking at the photographs, and I'm all set. I have no questions.
Okay. Jack?
Yeah, it sounds like they did what we asked them to do, and it appears to be working. So I'm good with that.
Good. Sean?
No questions.
Okay. A motion for the enforcement order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Opposed? And that's unanimous. And now we'll do the COC
Yeah,
for 242-1751.
right. So I recommend issuing a full certificate of compliance, standard perpetual conditions. One of them is going to include ongoing maintenance of this swale so that proper function can be ensured going forward per special condition number 53.
Okay. Any questions, Joe?
Is that just a restatement of a perpetual condition to maintain, or is this a new condition?
No, it's a restatement.
Okay, I'm all set.
Yep.
Okay. Al?
I am all set as well.
Okay. Jack?
No questions, Lou.
Okay. Sean?
All set, Lou.
All right. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those,
Sorry.
all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Okay, we get that one on the
Great.
way.
Thank
All
you
right.
so
All
much.
right.
Thanks, Gabrielle.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you for everything.
Right.
Next one is enforcement order 201 Marble Ridge Road.
All righty. So a couple of weeks ago, the building inspector noticed some excavation and import of fill at 201 Marble Ridge Road. He spoke with the contractor and told him to shut down. Gene Enright, our program director, then went out like an hour later to look at it because it was in watershed. And then by that time, the homeowner caught wind and he came down to town hall to try to figure out, how to move forward and come back into compliance. So as a little bit of background, our former field inspector had issued a tree removal letter in July to allow the removal of 5 trees within the buffer zone at the westerly side of the house. His letter permitted no other work apart from removing the trees. The stumps were to be cut flush and no other roots left intact. Unfortunately, he didn't detect the fact that the property was in riverfront area and the watershed overlay district. The homeowner, thinking that the side of the yard along Salem Street was out of jurisdiction, went ahead and removed additional trees, removed the stumps, and began importing fill to level out this side yard. I issued a violation letter requiring all activity to cease, installation of erosion controls, and that they obtain the services of a wetland consultant to delineate the wetlands and provide an evaluation. Homeowners have been very cooperative with all of the directives so far. They engaged Oxbow Associates, which I'm very familiar with my work in Beverly. I find them to be an excellent firm. Their principal, Brian Butler, is very well experienced, and his staff is the same. So I have confidence in the consultant. They flagged the wetlands, the mean high water of the stream, and provided a aerial photo with GPS flagging and the associated zones and an estimated area of disturbance and excavated area on that map. They suggest returning disturbed areas to pre-existing conditions, including the pre-existing grades, and offered suggestions for replanting within the 25-foot no disturb zone, which was partially impacted from some cutting of little saplings and the movement of the equipment back and forth to the excavated area. I popped out there this afternoon to review the wetland flags, found them to be reasonable. The applicant or the homeowner installed erosion control sock, and that held up very well. Even with last night's rain, there was no erosion whatsoever. And even from the stockpiled fill, there was really nothing, escaping. So it's fairly stable, even though, there's a lot of ground disturbance. It's not like there was rivers of mud flowing anywhere. So I don't know if you want to ask me some questions or if you just want my recommendations.
Let's go right to your recommendation. How about that?
All right. So I would recommend issuing a formal enforcement order that incorporates all of Oxbow's recommendations and set a completion date. I threw out November 16th, and I think November 16th we could get fill removed and grading reestablished. I'm just not sure about the plantings. I feel like the window is closing quickly for plantings, and I don't know if that should be a springtime activity. So the other thing that Lou and I discussed is perhaps having a formal surveyed as-built plan as one of the conditions, and also requiring that the wetland consultant supervise final regrading, application of soil stabilization, and plant installation. And that's
Okay.
it.
Thank you, Amy. Joe?
Just on discussion of the planting. So this is a restoration planting they're doing anyway, correct?
Yeah, this would be restoring disturbed areas in the 25.
Sure. So we would typically require it to go through some sort of monitoring period before we ultimately accept it with a survivability rate that would be reasonable.
Right.
So, I think it's a coin toss. I mean, it's late in the season. It's also dry for a fall, but in many instances, these plants survive best at this time of year. Maybe better than the spring coming into the summer. Okay. But in the end, we're still going to look for 2 growing seasons anyway. So I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the deadline is favorable to this fall and to give them a shorter monitoring period, or can we defer to spring and only prolong the monitoring period? I guess that's our choice, right?
Right. But it's a good point that you make about, survivorship after 2 growing seasons. And if, sometimes if plants are planted and they're dormant, then they're okay. They overwinter fine, and
And I think that window starts to close right around the middle of November when you really start getting into a frost condition. But I prefer to see plantings done this fall.
Okay.
Okay. Al?
That's it. That's all I have.
So I want to continue with Joe's thought. I like it. What locks us into 2 growing seasons? Why can't we monitor for 3? Where does it say we're stuck with 2? I would endorse Joe's idea: plant now and monitor for 3 seasons.
Okay.
The idea is to make the replacement area work and make it survivable. This wouldn't be a bad time to plant. I'm not usually an advocate of planting in mid-October, but the facts are, when and if they're dormant, they do have a good rate of survivability. They won't be browsed over like a springtime plant would be. So why not do it in order 3? That would be my idea. And also, I want to say that I can see where this mistake happened, and I don't blame the homeowner entirely. They reasonably relied upon a town official, and it appears to me, without any further information in hand, that particular town official mailed it in. So I want to just say that while they made a mistake, I can see how it would have happened. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's funny, we met this applicant when we were having a meeting outside the town hall going over the agenda, and the building inspector came by and said, "Hey, have you seen 201 Marble Ridge Road?" And Amy and I said no, and then the planning director came by and said, "Hey, have you seen 201 Marble Ridge Road?" And, no, we haven't seen it. And then like 5 minutes later, the poor applicant comes in and says, "I'm so-and-so from 201 Marble Ridge Road." I said, "You're the most popular guy in town."
I was a nervous wreck.
and he was very sincere and very apologetic, and so I have no ill will against the applicant. I'm in agreement with you guys as far as the plantings go, but they do have a lot of work to do before they get to that point. So we should give them the proper direction so that they can plant by the beginning of November, because it's not nice thing to say, but we're in the middle of October already.
I know.
Thank you very much.
Amy, on that point, a little good point on your timing. I didn't realize there was so much other work that ought to have been done ahead of time before planting. But I think we can condition the 3 growing seasons that commences when the plantings have been put in place, and we're notified of that. We don't want to discourage them from planting them this fall if they can, but maybe it's not fair to give them a deadline.
Okay, well, no later than May 1st of next year. They can do it now, but no later than.
Yeah, no later than certainly is reasonable, and it gives them the option, if the climate works to everybody's advantage, to get it done this year.
Well, what's the date of the last frost? That's what you got to go by. You'd be surprised how late the last frost comes in. I believe it's mid-May, and you don't want them planting before the last frost. So that should dictate a spring planting schedule. I was amazed at how late that frost comes in. Sometimes as late as the end of May can happen. So that should be a consideration as well.
Yeah. So if we're giving them a deadline, maybe Al, you're onto something that May 30th as a deadline. Nothing prevents them from doing it earlier, because we're going to have survivability analysis of what took and didn't take, and that's all we need to be satisfied with in the end.
Yeah, I mean, give them a fighting chance. Later in May, I think, is better. If you were asking me to plant something, I would be asking you for a later in May date for sure. I wouldn't want to get it done too quick there.
Okay.
So,
Jack, any input, Jack?
Yeah, I'm in favor of getting these things established, obviously, as quickly as we can. So I'm in agreement with you guys, Joe and Al. I do have a couple questions, though, about Ben's letter. The 5 trees that were authorized for removal, were those stumps taken out also?
No.
Okay. Because I think that was one of his conditions, and I just one of his bullet points kind of jumped out at me, and it kind of doesn't pass the smell test in one way, because it said when you're cutting these particular trees to take great care not to damage any other trees. So that was one of his instructions, yet there were a whole bunch of trees, unauthorized trees, that were taken out. So it seems like a conflict. It seems like the actions conflicted the instructions. And maybe the applicant can comment on that.
May I, Amy, or would you like to?
Go ahead, Rory. Go ahead.
So originally I had mapped out all the trees I wanted to be removed from the property. It wasn't just the westerly trees in the backyard. It was also the trees on the south side of the property on the side yard. Trees that actually, some of them had fallen in April. One actually fell on the house. So my concern was actually the trees on the south side. The field inspector, Ben, came out to measure, and he measured he said the 100-foot buffer stopped at where you see on that map where the stumps remained. Basically, he says the 100-foot buffer stops there. Anything past that buffer, I have no jurisdiction for. You can do whatever you want. So I thought, I wasn't asking for just 5 trees. I was asking for the trees in the side yard as well, and the southerly side, as well as the trees on my backyard that overhang the deck. But I was more concerned about the trees on the south side. And so he said, you don't need anything from me from there. You just need a letter from me for these 5 trees. These are 1 to 5 trees. You get a tree removal letter. 6 to 10, we call it something called a small project, and then anything over that, you have to appear in town hall. So I said, okay, I really don't care too much for the trees that overhang the deck. I just care about the trees on the south side, which were the ones that are dangerous and had fallen on the house itself. And so he just gave me a letter for the trees on the west side, because that's the one he said was within his jurisdiction, and the trees on the south side, he told me I can do what I want. So when I removed the trees, I also removed the stumps, thinking that was allowed, and I kept the trees in the backyard as directed. And I removed the trees all at the same time. I had the tree removal contractor come in and remove the trees, and then afterwards I sent an email telling Ben I did everything in his direction to come inspect. So I did that all through email, and so Amy has that email chain, and I always thought I had followed the rules and followed his direction. I never thought that I wasn't allowed to, because even when he came out there and he measured, that's what I was told. So I was just following direction from the inspector.
Okay, no, thank you for your thorough explanation. That's enlightening to me, and I don't have any more questions on this project.
Thanks, Jack. Sean?
No questions.
Okay. So what are we gonna do? So we have to do plantings, and Amy, I talked to Amy about it to do have a survey plan, so in the future, if he sells the house, whatever, it'll be known that there was an enforcement order, and we had him fix it, and we want it to stay that way. I hate to have somebody come in there and do something else. What is your input on that, Joe?
I think it's an insurance policy for the homeowner that he may not think it's reasonable now, but on resale, it'll be a very valuable document. So I agree with you, Lou.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Al?
Yeah, Lou, I agree with you on an as. You're talking about an as-built when it's done?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with the as-built, and I agree with that, not as a punitive measure, but I think it will be the correct thing to do. It'll give the homeowner a level of confidence, and it'll give us a permanent record that we need going forward. I also agree with the other recommendations that have been written by Amy. I think those recommendations, along with the as-built, is the direction we should go in. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Jack?
Yeah, I'm good with the direction of this.
Okay. Sean?
Oh, did we lose him? He muted? Sean?
Lose him?
He'll be back. He'll come right back.
Okay.
He's just muted.
You there?
You think?
Sean?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay. Did you hear about the certified plan survey that I recommended, and Amy, we talked about, so that he has on a file that, that it's been done through an enforcement order, and
I didn't, but I think it's a good idea to have something on record like that.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
So we gotta give, Amy, you're gonna give them a direction plan of what to plant, correct?
Yeah, I mean, Oxbow provides recommendations on species and number and spacing and such.
Okay.
I'll adopt
So-
that.
All right, so
Yeah,
he's-
Amy's
so
recommendation is drafted, look pretty darn good, adding the as-built. And we just want to clarify that the plantings be completed no later than May 30th, 2021. And then we want to be clear on the requirement for growing season monitoring of 3 years,
Yep.
three growing seasons.
Okay.
That's
Well, the
a
reason
motion.
why I'm, well, I just, the only question.
I'll second Joe's motion and then we can discuss.
Okay. The only thing I don't know if anybody's been out there. I know Al has. I mean, we got to should we give him some guidance on how much fill he can put in, how much he can take out?
I think you take out what was, well.
We don't know what the natural state was beginning.
Yeah,
Well,
yes, we do.
you know-
Yes, we do. Yeah, yes, you do. The original state, it can still be detected there. They didn't spread that much dirt. I think anybody could figure out where the correct level is. That hasn't been obliterated, I don't think.
And that's why I'd want the wetland scientists to be on site while final grading's being done.
Okay.
Well, there's a lot of removal that has to take place first,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
So the soil should be, erosion control should be established, and the soil should be removed right away, and then the area stabilized pending planting.
Yeah.
That works.
Okay, so removal and reestablishing existing grades by, is that the November 16th date? Makes sense?
Yeah, right away.
Yeah.
Remove and establish right away. No reason not to.
Okay.
And stabilize.
Right. So we're doing all of this strictly under the umbrella of an enforcement order. No additional permitting required, correct?
I
That would
think,
be my,
I think it's best
Yeah.
to stick.
Well,
with it.
it's gonna make, by doing it this way, Joe, it's probably gonna make it happen faster.
I think because
file something.
I think because of the situation with staff, it makes sense that this is reasonable, but this enforcement order is going to look like an order of conditions.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But there's, I
Go ahead,
know,
Amy.
I think it's more efficient and having them do an NOI.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just cautioning everybody that this is not going to be your run-of-the-mill enforcement order telling somebody to file. This is going to look like an order of conditions because of the way we're doing it, which is fine by me. Just as long as we're aware we're going down that road.
Yeah.
This is Joe. In my opinion, this is really the best way to go.
Agreed.
A filing wouldn't serve anything here. Just an EO with immediate action is what really needs to happen.
And because of that, we're talking about allowing the biologists and the wetland scientists to be on site rather than following a plan. His plan is going to be seat of the pants, and which is fine. But ultimately, we're going to document with an as-built that we're all hoping is going to be something we're going to accept down the road. But as long as we're all kind of monitoring this together, I think our expectations can be met. This is not a typical enforcement order for sure.
No, it's not. But I think we should never lose sight of the fact that this guy came looking for help.
Great. That's what exactly. It's only because I don't want anybody else to think that we're doing it for any other reason. There are very unique circumstances here.
Yeah, this is extremely unique, and that's why I have no trouble saying that he relied upon somebody that mailed it in. So I'm comfortable.
Okay, so we're gonna do twofold. We're gonna do the grading has to be done by November 16th, and the plantings are to be done, if applicable, as soon as possible.
Before the 30th.
No later than May 30th.
just simply say no later than, and that gives them the opportunity, if they want to do it earlier, they can.
Right.
But and we're going to want the monitoring reports for 3 growing seasons.
Right.
And that's how we know it all worked.
It is. I agree.
Now, Amy, I know you don't have enough to do. When this Oxbow Associates, where you have a rapport with them, you're gonna meet with them to kind of like, you know what we were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, we had another condition that, you know, I meet on site with OXO before things start.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And the only thing we didn't put in as a specific condition, I think we need to, is that when they do, whenever it is that they do plant, they need to notify us, and that's when the growing season monitoring period begins.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So we don't need any further action except that the site will be stabilized by November 16th, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Rory.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next one is approval of the conservation calendar.
Yep.
That looked wonderful.
It looks beautiful. We do this every year. Okay, there we go.
I didn't see any conflicts on my end yet. Gives me something to work around.
All right, we need a motion. We need a motion.
August.
Will we adopt the 2021 Conservation Commission meeting calendar? Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that, what's that? Somebody opposed, okay.
No.
All right.
Saying
Oh, okay.
aye when you said opposed.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, it's unanimous. Before we go to decisions, there's a couple things that I'd like to let the commission know about. We have a new commissioner, and Amy can fill you in, and we have a new field inspector
Yes.
also. So if you could fill the commission in for those two, and then we'll go to decisions.
Sure. So the new commissioner is Tony, I can't pronounce his last name.
Capichetti.
Capichetti. All right. So he was confirmed by the Board of Selectmen on the 5th. He was really busy, couldn't get sworn in by the time for this meeting, but he will be sworn in for the 28th. So we'll have him for the 28th. And you guys know him. He's a PE with Hayes, and so Lou and I will touch base with him and just kind of give him a rundown on how you guys operate. And so we look forward to having him aboard.
He's got some big shoes to fill, that's for sure.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. And we finished our interview process for a new field inspector. We made an offer on Tuesday, which was accepted right away. His name is Taylor Andrews. He is currently working for Wilkinson Ecological Design down on the Cape. He's certified horticulturist. He's certified in invasive species management. He is the crew leader for the company that actually implements wetland restoration, buffer zone restoration, in response to violations with conservation commissions, adept at reading plans, reviewing orders of conditions, interaction with agents and contractors, passersby, neighbors, homeowners that aren't happy that they have to do restoration for violations. So I think he's going to be a wonderful addition, and I really like his demeanor. He's very calm, mature, and I think he's got a lot to offer. So I'm really excited.
And I was in the interview process at the final two applicants, and he's excellent. I call him a kid, but he's I don't even know how old he is. We're not allowed to ask. But no, I think you guys will be happy with him, and he knows his stuff. So the two major questions I asked him was flagging. When he goes to site and sees the wetland flags, he knows that they're in the right place. And the other question was that he knows his wetland plants, which he has a degree in. So I think he'll be a fine addition to the Conservation Commission.
Good work, folks.
Yay.
Thank you. We got lucky with this guy.
Yeah. So early November start. He's moving up here, so give it his notice, and so that'll be good.
Yeah, the commute from Yarmouth every day could be a challenge. So, anybody have any questions?
No questions.
All right. So we'll move on to decisions.
Trustees of reservations.
Yep. That works. Is that the first one, Amy?
Yeah.
Let me get my glasses again. Yeah, Andover Street trustees.
Okay. Alrighty. You guys all have that, right?
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Gotta get back to finding now.
Amy, all the plan citations in the front end here, they're all, including the stuff you got most recently from
Yep.
John Moran?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
Bond 3,000. I don't know.
Well, we're going back to the same thing with, like Jack spoke to earlier.
Just a typographical error in condition 37. It looks like $3.
Yep. No, I
just dropped a zero. Just dropped a zero.
Yeah, prior to construction, remove the dumping pile, compost pile.
Yep.
And we were going to specify non-arsenic containing wood for the boardwalk.
Yep.
Amy, the plan that we had in the field in the compost area, they designated which trees they wanted to remove and which ones they wanted to retain, correct? We don't need to specify that, right?
Not specifically, but I think they're mostly ash.
Yeah, I think in the pile itself were ash, and I think those are the ones they were talking about preferring to get rid of, but right adjacent to those piles, and nobody would dare even consider it probably. But there's some beautiful hickories in there.
Got it.
I would say if we're talking about the compost pile, that if tree removal is desired, to notify commission, notify the agent ahead of time.
Okay,
Something
That
to
would
that
be,
effect.
condition 42 does address the compost pile. So Joe's concerns could maybe be added to that condition.
okay.
So we have a letter from the trust, I'm jumping way to the end, but we have a letter from the trustees of their intent to expand the education program. Do we want them to submit something to us formally, or just their commitment is enough?
What if we ask them to submit their proposed signage, like draft signage that they want to install?
I agree with Joe with that, because that was part of the conditions that we negotiated with them. And I know you talked about that a lot, Joe. I think they should give us some type of letter stating what their plans are.
So they've given us a letter that they intend to expand their education program. That's what we saw tonight. But I think it goes beyond that. They need to deliver. So I think we should specifically require that they submit some sort of curriculum or some sort of interpretive program, something to us that really demonstrates what it is they're actually doing to explain to their membership that these things that we're trying to protect were worthy of protecting. The whole reason we granted the work to happen is because there's an educational component here. And taking it at face value is great, but in the same token, I'd like to see what they're proposing. So, just prior to certificate of compliance, I don't mean pre-construction, just, prior to getting their compliance.
Okay.
Amy, if you want to draft that up and send it to me, I can go over if everybody's okay with that, what it is I'm looking for.
Yep. Okay.
No, Amy,
I got to reload my draft. My email just crashed. Give me a second. Sorry. Email keeps crashing.
Uh-oh.
I think this is an Xfinity thing, I'm afraid.
Oh, boy.
Yep, reopen. I'm good. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Amy, the condition 66 and 67, you have a construction access, but they gonna depict it on the plan?
Okay, yes, wait a minute, that is that's pre-construction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me back up and include that in pre-construction.
Yeah, and they gotta designate a stockpile area, because I don't know where they're gonna put it, but when they muck out that pond, there's gonna be water. So we gotta figure out where it is, and they gotta. You have it right that you have to contain it, but
right.
That should be in the pre-construction, so they know.
During the site walk, they proposed where they were going to do it, so I don't think it's unreasonable. I mean, they got a good handle where they want to do it, so I think to tell us where they're going to do it is pre-construction is reasonable.
Right. They wanted to show you where they wanted to stockpile this material?
I believe they did on the opposite side of the path of the roadway, the gravel roadway, over where the dewatering was going to go. I thought they were putting it on the opposite side there. Al, am I correct in them offering that?
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right, but it helps.
It never ended up.
Plan.
Never ended up on the plan.
Right. Okay.
Oh, so did I say dewatering BMPs must be installed? Let me add that.
Now, when this project is over, are we going to have any type of signage? Are they're going to supply with signage?
Wetland, resource area markers.
Right.
I think there's a condition in there for that.
Okay.
What the heck is
That,
it? But
it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse. That was actually one of the things we discussed in detail about this whole educational program. Is there was going to be some way that folks could walk up to this area that they're disturbing and restoring. They have a better appreciation. So there was a whole requirement for signage and why it is they did what they did and in those locations so people can learn from it. So it's more than simply markers.
Okay.
Right.
So that becomes part of the interpretive program, but I think the markers can include the resource areas as well as any signage associated with the interpretive program. How's that?
Sounds good.
Lou, condition 50 talks about, wetland markers for resource areas.
But there's additional signage that, like Joe's talked about.
Yes. That's part of the educational program.
Yep. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, but 50 is pre-construction, so maybe it's a standalone condition. When we talk about that educational program, maybe the inclusion of interpretive signage be part of what they submit, and that should be separate from 50.
Okay.
Because these are pre-construction. These are pre-construction.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Holy cow! I just looked at my clock and went, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we move things along so quickly.
Well, we tried. We had a lot of, and we have major decisions here. All right. Does anybody have any more questions on the Stevens Coolidge?
Nope.
No, I didn't. I'll entertain a motion.
We adopt as ended.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1794, 335 Willow Street.
Okay. Pull it up. Okay. All righty.
Amy.
Yeah.
Get the name of the company, the muffin company.
Bacon Joy.
Do they have multiple buildings on multiple sites out there?
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's why because I didn't think this site looked like some of the others, and I just wanted to make sure we weren't doing other conditions.
Acquired this one, and
the original building, Joe. I don't think they could put a mailbox.
Well, that's what I'm remembering, and I wanted to, if it was that same site, I wanted to make sure that we weren't undoing any of those other conditions. But this is a site unto itself. Got it.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
Same typo on bond, condition 41. Should be 1,000. If we agree with 3,000, it should be.
Oh yeah. Okay. Typo. Got it.
Yeah. trying to get the narrative on the work. On a commercial project, I don't think 3,000 is enough. Two additions, regrading, repaving. I don't know. There's a lot of work here. Construction of two additions to existing buildings, walkways, regrading, and repaving the parking areas.
Is it all within existing pavement areas? Or are we expanding beyond what's already there? I'm not remembering.
They are not expanding.
They're not expanding.
Pavement, no.
It's all within existing pavement. That's what I thought. I mean, 3,000 is light. It wouldn't kill them to go 5, but I don't think we're talking 10.
No. Yeah.
5 it is. I propose 5.
What's this, an auction? Okay.
I'll second the 5.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, we have at some point when we have earlier evenings, we'll have to talk about bonding issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Add that to the list of things we got to talk about.
Well, I shouldn't say that, but I think after these, we should be in good shape.
Okay.
We got some coming, but they're not coming yet.
Mm-hmm.
The storm.
So Amy, where this is all an existing pavement, the existing stormwater system with basins, do they need to take any extra precautions with putting silk sacks in the basins?
Good point, and we should add that, yes.
Just add it, yeah. And whether they apply or not, they can discuss that in pre-construction.
Right, and even in the roadway too.
Okay.
And Amy, and if I had a complaint from somebody the other day that people aren't taking the catch basin socks out after their projects are done,
Yeah.
and flooding roadways, and so we got to make a point. And one of them wasn't even conservation related. It was DPW. So
Okay.
we should send a memo to DPW to remind them to take out these things after the projects are done.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the old days. These were just, when they were flooded, they used to just poke a stick in it and let them drain through. Eat the purpose of them.
In the olden days, they still do that.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
Too bad.
So, work on the existing riprap, whatchamacallit, at the low point of this pavement is right next to the wetland. It's a pre-existing condition. It's just they're making it more robust, and so I don't know if that's, if it really needs discussion or a waiver. It was allowed, with the pre-existing project, so maybe it doesn't.
So the previous project was permitted with an order of conditions?
Yes.
It probably obligated them to maintain it, right?
Yes.
So this activity as part of this project is really just an extension of maintenance.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a waiver. I think it's permitted because it's included as part of their scope. What do you think?
Makes sense.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely needed some attention in TLC. So maybe I'll just add, on condition number 35, I'll just add that maintenance of this is a previous requirement.
Are they bringing any fill in? Or should we just, maybe it's already in there. Is there a generic prohibition of recycled concrete, recycled glass?
Yeah, I keep that. That's a standard.
That's standard now?
Yeah.
We, description of what they're doing, I think we should in the future, if it says regrading and repaving, they should distinguish if they're gonna be doing pulverizing or, because that makes a difference.
Yes.
So we should have them in the future be descriptive of what they're gonna do, because we had that problem with the dialysis place on Sutton Street. Remember the guy didn't even know what he didn't know what he was talking about, but
yeah.
I think when they're telling us they're gonna regrade,
yeah,
you know, they're gonna rip up the old parking lot. Nobody does that anymore. They just pulverize and take away the excess. But I think in the future we should make sure under their description of proposed work what they're gonna be doing.
Okay.
Because that could make it a difference as far as erosion control and other things like that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Is that an issue on this filing, Lou? Do we know what they're doing in the parking lot?
It doesn't say. It just says regrading and repaving.
So as a pre-construction, they should describe to us what method of pavement restoration they're going to use, and specify that, and then during pre-construction we can either amend or expand the order of conditions to clarify protection.
I think
you're right. If it's just an overlay, it's nothing, and if it's a mill and overlay, it's a little more invasive, but not too bad. If it's complete pulverizing or a rip out, it's hugely disruptive. But you're right. We don't know. They don't tell us. We don't ask always.
Yeah. So I think that we should have, that should be a part of their proposed in the future. The proposed work, what they're saying they're going to do.
Yeah.
They should tell us, and then we can condition it accordingly.
Yeah. He only says in his narrative, it just says removal of existing pavement to be replaced. Wait a minute. Let me just see if I can find anything more descriptive.
Regrading and repaving the parking areas. You look at condition 20.
Yeah.
Lou and I are, I think. Is it another place?
Oh, I'm looking at their narrative.
Okay, in the narrative. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
To see if we picked it up right. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
You know what? Let's not waste time on that. This is where we probably want to do just what Lou said, is that as pre-construction, that they are to tell us what form of repaving they will use. And based on that answer, we will determine whether the protection measures need to be fortified or not.
Yeah, I agree. Because they have other. If you keep reading, it gets worse. So, if there's a rain event, or the water, and if it's paving, that's one thing. But if it's gravel, that's something else.
And in fairness to the engineer, they don't know until they get a general contractor aboard. What method they're going to use, or what time of year, or who has the expertise, or gives them the best price. They don't know. So it almost becomes a boilerplate condition that, if since you don't know, you need to tell us prior to construction. You need to figure it out by then.
Yeah, I'm sure that the owner of the property would like to know.
Yeah, because that's cost.
Because of cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I will put that as a new boilerplate. Okay.
And this guy here, and I mean, they're good, but it wouldn't hurt on your pre-construction to find out what they're doing on this project also.
Which one?
This muffin place. When you do your pre-construction,
Yeah.
it wouldn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, we just conditioned it.
Oh, well, yeah, I thought you added as a condition.
Oh, you are going to put it on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll just become one of the new boilerplate, but I'll add it here.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions on this project? If not, have a motion.
Move that we adopt as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1795, 597 Foster Street.
Okay. Foster. By Forest, no, Foster. Okay.
Actually, I'm looking at the email with 7 attachments. I don't see. I see draft findings. Is that it?
That's it. Yes.
Okay. I was looking for an order of conditions. All right, got it.
Sorry.
By the way, Amy, I know it's a lot of work, but the way you put these agendas together and all the attachments are all right there, this is very easy for me.
Oh, good.
It's you do a good job. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
Most definitely.
Don't keep patting her on the head. She'll get a big head.
Lou cuts me down every so often. I know my place.
I got to put you in your place so you know.
I know.
That's Lou's specialty.
Yeah.
There's only a few people in this world that are perfect. And I want to keep it that way.
Right. Jesus being one of them.
I was just going to say, Donald wants to keep it that way too.
Yeah. So apologies about how RDA should be NOIs, and I'll get it straight.
You better, or you'll be unemployed.
I know. Oy.
Amy, on this one on 597, do you have anything that specifically addresses that concrete pad?
Yes. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, in the beginning, in current project site conditions.
Okay. I'm more talking about going forward because.
Oh yes, yeah, for not being a foundation for anything.
Yeah, in other words,
yes,
we're allowing it to stay there and become part of this ecosystem, but in return, it's off limits.
Absolutely. So
to anything and everything, all activities, it's off limits. It can be there, you can look at it.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's
you know.
71 special condition.
So that's in your that's stated in the project description. Is it conditioned as well?
71.
As a condition?
Condition 71. That sounds good.
Yep.
Thank you.
And
So-
that was my only concern.
Hopefully it's worded correctly. The existing concrete pad shall not be considered or utilized as a foundation for any future proposed outbuilding. And I go on to say, no additional structure shall be allowed within the 50-foot no-build zone. This condition is ongoing beyond the issuance of a certificate of compliance.
Well, I think here's my thought, real quick.
Okay.
That pad is literally in the wetland,
Yeah,
and we're saying, okay, it can remain there because we don't want to cause any damage or disruption to the wetland.
right.
So what we have to say is no activity. It's a no-go zone, and no activity of any kind. You know, no rock bands, no nothing. Just leave it alone. You know.
Okay.
Like no patio chairs and things like that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's got to be considered to be an absolute no-go zone. It's in the wetland.
Yeah.
And no activity is going to improve the situation. We're saying you can leave it there. We're saying you don't have to dig it out.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, you know, if you're going to have a picnic or a party and, you know, use it as a setup, I would object.
I know they're going to do that.
Of course they are.
So
They're going to have a rock concert? I'm going.
No,
So-
just by the deliberations, the discussions tonight.
Well, Jack,
And-
listen. Let's do our part. Let's prohibit it.
Yeah.
And then if it gets to a point where it has to be enforced, we have the prohibition. I don't see us having to go and do any enforcement. However, I would rather have it be said. You know, it's likely that the house is going to be sold and there'll be a new owner in there.
I got you.
And you know, it's got to be. We got to put it in as clearly as we can.
Yeah.
You know, it's the spirit and intent of our order is to allow that to become part of the landscape, and not anything else, nothing else.
So no rock bands, but country western bands, okay.
Well, I would say, you know, yeah, if they have country and western, if they got both kinds, country and western, then yeah. But I'm thinking, you know, yeah, Carrie Underwood would be acceptable. Otherwise,
Wow.
yeah.
Well said,
I
Albert.
got you. I got you.
I'm just saying. All right, that's all I have, boys and girl.
Yeah. Very good, Al.
Thanks.
Okay, I got that in there. Country western only.
If you ever watched the Blues Brothers, Amy, you'd understand that the humor in the term country and western.
Oh, okay.
That's what I picked up on. Exactly.
I mean,
Yep.
I've seen that movie. I guess I missed that line.
You got both kinds.
We got both kinds here. That's right. Well done, man. I don't have anything else on that one. I don't know if anybody else does, but
No, I think we're in good shape. Anybody have any questions?
No.
Not what? Not, we'll have a motion.
move as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Last but not least, where am I here? $1,600 Osgood Street.
This ought to be easy.
It should be easy because,
It's
Really?
been reviewed umpteen times. This ought to be easy.
yeah, and I didn't see any need to change any conditions of the previous decision.
Right.
You're just citing new records and new plans, right?
Exactly. Right. And I just, procedural history I updated for the amendment and stuff like that, but
Yeah, I'm all set.
All right, if anyone doesn't have any questions, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the amended order of conditions as drafted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, and that's unanimous. Now we need signature authorization.
yes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. And motion to adjourn. Excuse me, adjourn. Thank you. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All
Third.
those in favor, fourth and fifth. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous.